A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you something that I've wanted to do for quite some time, ever since I got this book. This is going to be one of those graphic novel omnibus reviews that go over kind of many different parts, which, yeah, I know I've been kind of a bit lax in that respect. I've still got to do book 2 and 3 of Miracle Man. I've got the end of Nightfall. I've got to continue with the Batman No Man's Land saga and all of that stuff. I get it. I'm a bit behind. Shit happens. But for this, I am super excited because this is one of my all-time favorite comic book characters. So cheers to that. Today we are looking at Blade, the early years. Blade the Vampire Hunter has been one of my favorite characters for a long time. Ever since I picked up issue 1 of the 10-issue Blade series back in 1994. Had the complete set. I know my awesome friend, Mr. Ian Van Gammett, still has them in his collection. I gifted them to him when I came over here to South Korea. But Blade is a character that was kind of made a bit famous by the, when was it? 1998? 1997? No, it would have been 1998. The 1998 film starring Wesley Snipes, which got 2 sequels, Blade 2 in 2002, and of course Blade Trinity in 2004, I want to say. Maybe 2005. And of course, huge spoiler alert here, the cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine. Blade is a character that first kind of debuted on the comics as a side character in, I believe it was the Tomb of Dracula issue 10. He was created by writer Marv Wolfman, who, for those of you that don't know, was one of the driving forces with George Perez behind the Crisis on Infinite Earths 12-issue storyline, which kind of reset the DC universe way back in the day and kind of set the scene for all the DC crises that have happened ever since then. Crisis on Infinite Earths is just a phenomenal story. And I will say the TV adaptation that the CW did across all of their kind of Arrowverse shows was fantastic. Really cool. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Blade. Now, this omnibus edition is the early years. It comes with quite a lot of issues in it. But today I will only be looking at the Tomb of Dracula issues for this part of the video. I will be, of course, diving into the other issues in later parts of this series, so have no fear of that. Some of you may know Blade from the Spider-Man animated series that came out in the 90s. He had a story arc with Morbius, the Living Vampire, that I believe was in season 3, if I'm not mistaken, which was around 1995, a few years before the character actually debuted on the big screen, which, going back now and rewatching Spider-Man the Animated Series, I thought that was really cool. As I said, I just love Blade. So with that said, we are going to dive into the first part of this. This is the run of The Tomb of Dracula, a comic which I never had. It came out in the 70s. I believe early 70s. I could be wrong. It could be late 70s. I really can't remember. I want to say 73, but then I want to say 78. So I'm just going to hedge my bets here. Blade has had numerous appearances in various comics. He was part of the Midnight Suns. He was part of the Night Stalkers as a team. He's had his own solo comics. He's a very kind of prominent character that doesn't get the love that he deserves. He was created at a time when Marvel was kind of on that whole horror shtick. So you had like Blade the Vampire Slayer. He wasn't a hunter back then. He was the Vampire Slayer. You had Werewolf by Night. These kinds of characters. To a lesser extent, Moon Knight. Hannibal King. So I think the kind of trend shifted to more of the superheroics, and Blade was left kind of by the wayside. Now, just a quick summary of Blade's powers and abilities, if you don't want to watch the video and have anything spoiled. He is known as the Daywalker. His full name is Eric Cross Brooks, and when his mother was pregnant with him, she was bitten by a vampire. So his mother died, but he lived, and he got all of their abilities, none of their weaknesses. That's kind of the way we're going here. And his ultimate goal is to find the vampire that killed his mother. But in these early issues of Tomb of Dracula, he's actually working with Quincy Harker and a few other people to take down Dracula. He kind of teams up with them. The ultimate goal, of course, being once Dracula is down, he can go off and hunt the vampire that killed his mother. That's the basic story that we're going to get into. So stick around, have a drink of red wine, pretend it's blood, and just enjoy the next episode of...
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
So this is Blade the Early Years. As I said, I'm only going to go through the Tomb of Dracula stuff at the beginning of the book for this first part. Fantastic cover. As you can see, Marv, Wolfman, Gene Colan. Now we have Blade himself. Okay, the table of contents. And then we come to Tomb of Dracula, number 10. This is the first appearance of Blade. So we can see Blade has stopped Dracula's minions, I should say, from attacking this girl. He takes them out, but he is reprimanded by Quincy Harker, that is the relative of Jonathan Harker, as well as some of his kind of followers in his little band. Then we have this party boat. Dracula has been invited by the owner of this boat. Dracula's ultimate goal here is to turn some of these people into his thralls because they are influential. And in the future, they can aid him into getting more power. So he seduces this young woman, bites her, runs off laughing. And when they realize that he's actually a vampire, the partygoers try to kill him. Blade, in scuba gear, comes to the boat and attacks. Everyone attacks Dracula. The woman that Dracula has made his thrall goes off to find him because she believes she's in love with him. Blade attacks Dracula. A fight ensues. Just before Blade is about to get bitten, the woman diverts Dracula's attention and Dracula escapes from the boat. Blade makes everyone jump overboard and the boat explodes. And that is it in a nutshell. Now, what I do have to say right off the bat is the art is fantastic. The narration and the dialogue is all great. It's pure 1970s goodness. We now move into the Tomb of Dracula issue 12. I really love these old comic covers where they had speech bubbles on them. That's really cool. Night of the Screaming House. Quincy Harker stops Dracula from attacking someone. We have Quincy's little band, Elizabeth Langley. Elizabeth's kind of not so much an Indian manservant, but she actually had saved Taj's life. So he feels kind of protective of her. And we have Frank Drake as well, who is a descendant of Dracula. And Quincy Harker's adopted daughter, which Dracula kidnaps. So the plot here is Dracula is luring them to his castle, using the adoptive daughter as bait, and ultimately he wants to kill them because they've been kind of ruining his plans all along. So he keeps her there in the house and in the castle, I should say, or the mansion, whatever. And then Harker and Elizabeth and Frank and Taj go there. Blade is resting, enjoying some quality time with his girl when the phone rings. And he's like, I've got to go. And she's like, you fucking prick, and throws a knife at the door, which I thought was cool. They go into the house where they kind of immediately succumb to all of these different booby traps that Dracula has made. And Taj and Frank decide to go there to explore the north and south parts of his house, while Quincy and Elizabeth kind of stay behind. And Blade shows up, meeting Frank, and they decide to kind of team up. Dracula has set up this spider trap. Taj finds Harker's adoptive daughter, but Dracula ambushes him, and Blade manages to stop the spiders from biting Frank, and they rush back to find Dracula, and Blade and Dracula get into a fight, and Dracula throws Blade off of a balcony, but Blade grabs the chandelier, swings back, and kicks Dracula and stabs him with his knife. Dracula, realizing this isn't going to go well for him, decides to flee. Unfortunately, Dracula has turned Harker's adopted daughter into a vampire, and she begs to be killed, which they do, and everyone kind of takes it personally. So they go on the hunt for Dracula. They have a bit of a problem with Blade. Blade's tactics are not the tactics that they would employ, but Blade kind of gets the job done, so they kind of understand it. We get them kind of teaming up to take down Dracula officially. This woman is being pursued in an alley by this drunk guy. Dracula comes and basically kills him and takes her away, biting her. We see that Dracula at this point wants to understand mankind better. So he goes to a sports arena where he sees a boxing match. At the same time, we have these new characters coming in. This guy called Dr. Sun is looking for a particular sort of body at the morgue, and that is a body that has been killed by a vampire. Dracula watches the boxing match and realizes mankind is shit. Blade then describes his origin. This is the first time we get Blade's origin, where his mother was pregnant with him and bitten by a vampire, and he's hunting the vampire that killed his mother, but also gave him his powers, although at this point we don't know exactly what his powers are. Dracula flies to a carnival. This police officer sees the bat, and he is working for Quincy Harker. So he's like, I know where Dracula's going. And they decide to go there and take him out. They come to this guy's place and they say, have you seen this man? A really fucking bad drawing there, but whatever. And the guy's like, yep, he's up there at this house. And they go to the house and they attack Dracula and they overpower him. However, Dracula has made most of the people that live nearby into his thralls. And so the thralls start to come to rescue Dracula. But before they do, Blade stabs Dracula with his wooden knife, thus killing him. Great, great panel there. I absolutely love it. The group are happy that Dracula is dead, but all of the thralls have come in and they are trying to break their way into the building. And their ultimate goal is to steal Dracula's corpse and resurrect him. Dr. Sun has found the body that he is looking for. And his whole purpose is to, I believe, to make sure this thing kind of is resurrected, this whole life after death kind of bullshit. Dracula's body is wasting away, and as it does, the thralls, kind of, his power is over them is gone, and they're happy. They kind of run away, and then this traveling preacher guy, he finds the body, and his whole big shtick is he wants to bring someone back from the dead. Now, it is not what you think. He wants to bring Dracula back from the dead just so he can kill him and prove that God can fight demons and whatnot. The group see what the preacher is about to do, and they rush to stop him from pulling out the wooden dagger, but they are too late, and Dracula is resurrected. Dracula is confronted by the preacher and all of his congregation with crosses and whatnot, but as usual, Dracula overpowers them. He ends up killing the preacher before escaping. Okay, then we have Tomb of Dracula number 17. A vampire rides this train. So Dracula is once again confronted by Blade. He bites Blade and leaves him for dead in the sewer tunnels under Paris. And Quincy Harker finds him and is about to kill him. So this is just a little aside. It's not the full issue. And this is when we discover that Blade is immune to the vampire's bite because his mother was bitten when he was in the womb, and so he has all of their strengths, none of their weaknesses, blah, blah, blah. And after a back and forth, they kind of let him go on his merry way. Okay. A Mourning for the Dead. We have all of the group have kind of split up a little bit. Frank Drake is going to go his own way apart from Elizabeth, while Dracula is kind of doing his doing his thing. A vampire minion of Dracula's comes to Blade's house and attacks Blade's girlfriend. But Blade, of course, manages to kill this guy. And then they get a visit from this woman. She's a stripper who had a run-in with Dracula and didn't like him and kind of escaped and got away from him. Remembered about her friend, who is Blade's girlfriend. And so she goes to them for help. And we see Blade is basically using himself as bait to get Dracula to come out. He gets forced in front of a moving bus. We don't know what happens. Taj is back in India. We see his wife is in a wheelchair, and his wife is like, "Can you stay with me?" And he's like, "No," and he smacks her in the face and walks out. I have no fucking idea what this page is about, but it is just, it just smacks of the 70s, is all I'm saying there. Blade pursues, he falls under the bus goes over the top of him, and then he pursues Dracula into kind of this shopping mall, and their fight continues. A couple of bobbies come along, that's English police, and Blade ends up going back to his apartment and admits that he found Dracula but didn't kind of defeat him. And then Dracula goes back to his lair while Frank and Elizabeth have a heartfelt goodbye, and he leaves. Okay, we now have the Tomb of Dracula number 30. This is Dracula reminiscing over a lost love. We find out a little bit of a backstory here about Dracula and this woman that he was desperately in love with. And we get her backstory and his backstory and his history. And then we jump to the future, where Dracula is kind of obsessed with this idea and concept of innocence. And he sees this little girl playing in a yard while the father is arguing with the mother, and the father ends up killing the mother, and Dracula basically comes in and kills the father and says, "What have you done to this little girl? You've destroyed her now," as he's killing the father in front of her, which is kind of interesting. A man comes, he's been searching for Dracula, and he says, "I can lead you to Blade." So this is a trap. When he comes to this cave, there's all of these people that Blade has recruited that are waiting to hunt him down. And he and Blade again fight. Blade stabs him with the dagger, killing him again. But although this is kind of in the past. And then Dracula thralls come and they rescue him. And that is the end of the Blade early years Tomb of Dracula stuff. The next part we get into is dealing with Morbius, the living vampire, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. This was just about the Tomb of Dracula issues. What did I think of the Tomb of Dracula issues that featured Blade? Absolutely fucking loved them. I loved every minute of it. I love the dialogue. I love the narration. I love the art. This is a solid comic book from the 70s, and I'm so happy that they reprinted it here in this Blade the Early Years omnibus. So, not much more to say, but there you have it. If you enjoyed the video, of course, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all of that good stuff. If you haven't read Blade, go out and read Blade. If you haven't seen the movies, yes, I'm even including Blade Trinity in this. Even if a lot of people say it sucks, it's still a Blade movie. And in Blade Trinity, he does go up against Dracula, which is kind of fun. But Blade 1 and 2 are solid films. And check out Season 3 of Spider-Man the Animated Series. You will not be disappointed at all. Of course, go watch Deadpool and Wolverine, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, going to leave it here. Thank you very much for watching. Please, everyone, stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. But most importantly, go kill some fucking vampires, people.